Fully loaded. The Fully Loaded Show. Welcome to the Fully Loaded Show with your hosts, JC Cornell and Paige DeMarco.
And welcome in to the Fully Loaded Show. Chris Schubert filling in for Paige DeMarco's got JC Cornell with you. It is a Tuesday, and no instant reaction last night. We figured with our episodes coming out the next day on Tuesday, we would do our game reaction to last night's Monday Night Football game. Now, JC, I don't see the hoodie on the chair behind you. Where has the hoodie gone?
The hoodie's gonna get washed.
Okay.
It's in the laundry. The hoodie's 7-1. And listen, we didn't do an instant reaction show because why? The game was on late last night. I don't want to get in trouble for saying this, but it could have been past Tom Brady's bedtime last night for that game.
Okay.
It was a little bit past my bedtime. Listen, I love Tom Brady, but here's the deal. He has rituals, routines. The routine is he's in bed with Giselle by I think 8:45, 9:15 latest. And when you come from a place like Foxborough where you are in primetime all the time and it's snowing out, but you have the stadium, Gillette Stadium, sold out with fans screaming. I mean, it's hard to stay awake when you have like how many fans in the stands. You know what I mean? It's a different ball game. It's a whole different atmosphere. It's almost deflating with no fans. So
I see what you did there by using the word deflating. All right, we'll start there because you brought it up. The offense is probably the thing that is generating the most conversation today. Brady, the 2 bad interceptions, the dropped passes out of the backfield, the 8 yards that they were able to put together in the third quarter, the offensive line woes. It was, JC, I think the fairest way to say this is it's everything that we worry about with this offense on a weekly basis, all coming together in one game.
Well, listen, when the defense doesn't play elite, the Bucs are in trouble because this offense still has not found its true identity. I think you saw Brady with the hot audible at the end of the game there where he was kind of taking control of the play calling. I think there might be a power. I don't want to, get in trouble. Don't want to step on anybody's toes. But I really think they need to find an identity soon with this offense, whether it's Byron Leftwich calling the plays or if Tom Brady's just going to call every single play. Because I know there's people out there that are questioning Leftwich, and I don't want to get into that, argument or whatnot. But they need to figure out that identity because the defense cannot win you every single game. There's games you're going to have to go blow by blow with other teams, and like they had it going for the first 3 quarters and just couldn't do it at the end. Brady didn't have that signature drive that you usually see from him. And I swear, I believe that's because of the atmosphere at the games. This atmosphere does no good for anybody. The fans, it doesn't do good, and the players. We need fans back in those stands. So please wear your mask and pray for a vaccine because we need it.
And in watching the game last night, I just found myself very quickly realizing early on, this is another one of those games for this Bucs team on offense. You can tell almost instantly how it's going to go, if they're going to struggle and it's going to be slow and it's going to be inconsistent. And you kind of felt that right out of the gate. And JC, every week we have the conversation of, who's going to get the lion's share of the touches out of the backfield, who's going to find themselves into that role. Well, it was Leonard Fournette last night, and the drop passes were a killer for this offense, and it stopped them in their tracks. Any momentum they were able to gain, it felt like there was a drop pass or a bad play that very quickly stopped all of that momentum and put a lot of pressure on Todd Bowles and this defense to make plays in the second half. Now, they did. They gave themselves a chance in the fourth quarter to win that football game. The defense played well in the second half, but you just got to get more consistent out of the offense. And I'll say this. There's enough talent in that room, both coaching and on the field, to where I feel like they should be able to figure it out, that they should be able to find a way to get this going. Now, the drop passes are the drop passes. That's just, you got to catch those passes. But in terms of them being sluggish and it being inconsistent and them not being able to find a rhythm, that should be able to be fixed with the talent that they have coaching and on the field.
I agree. I mean, the running backs did not show up. Rojo didn't show up. Fournette didn't show up. There wasn't lanes either. I mean, credit where credit's due. The Rams had a hell of a game plan. I'm sure McVay saw and watched that Raiders game because he learned from John Gruden, like growing up in the league, and he probably picked apart that tape and saw how to create just a master game plan against this team, and he did, and they won the game. So kudos to him. I thought this game was almost like an OG coach like Bruce, like an OG offensive mind versus like this young mind that is so talented, makes Jared Goff step up. And, I think Jared Goff is a mediocre quarterback that plays like a high tier quarterback because of Sean McVay. And I know I got off topic there, but this whole game, it was disappointing. And I going back to the running backs, I still want to see Sneak Vaughn have a role on this team, or at least have a chance to have a role, because I think he's a guy, like I said before, that could be a James White type that we're missing in this offense for Brady.
It's funny. The thought crossed my mind again watching the game of like, is Sneak Vaughn now going to get a chance, right? Because the other two guys didn't live up to the expectations in this football game. Because it's the way BA kind of does things. He'll find ways to get guys involved. You mentioned Jared Goff, and we can talk about that side of the ball here as well. Listen, the Rams and Sean McVay, they came in with a game plan of, hey, we're going to try to run the ball, even though it's difficult to run against this team. And then they were like, you know what? This game, it's not going to work. We'll have Jared Goff throw the ball 51 times. Listen, if you have Jared Goff throw the ball 51 times each and every week, I don't think that is a recipe for the Rams to win week in and week out. But in this game, in this matchup, with the way that they had the Tampa Bay defense back on their heels with the tempo that they were using, I thought this was a very, very smart and well-executed game plan by Sean McVay and the Rams and Jared Goff. Give credit where credit is due. I'm critical of him too, but I watched this game last night, and JC, my big takeaway is I think this Rams team is the best team in the NFC. I think every team has flaws. The Rams' flaw is their quarterback is inconsistent and is probably average, above average. But they went to a Super Bowl with this quarterback, so it's not like they can't figure out how to get it done. I think you saw that last night. They found a way to get it done.
And I'm going to keep talking about the Rams because I think a lot of people wrote the Rams off because they got themselves in salary cap hell, right?
Had a bad year last year too, right?
But look at how they bounced back that quick. I mean, you could be completely right. That might be the best team in the NFC.
And again, every team in the NFC has flaws. We've discussed it on this show. Seattle, their defense and their inability to run the ball because of the Chris Carson injury. Green Bay, we know what their defense is. Tampa, it's probably their inconsistency on offense. New Orleans, right now, it's not having Drew Brees and being able to throw the ball down the field. The Rams, it's their quarterback. But again, they find ways to win football games. They've gone to a Super Bowl with this guy. So I don't think it's a stretch to look at this football team with the way that they played, and they beat the Seahawks, and now they've beaten the Bucs, two of the top teams in the NFC. I don't think it's a stretch to say that they are the best team. And that's why there are, I don't look at this as, this is a terrible, awful, bad loss. It's not a great loss. You're home. You should win this football game. I have concerns about Brady throwing the ball down the field lately. I have concerns with this team in prime time and whatever it is about them not being able to start right. But overall, this could be, JC, would it surprise you if this was the NFC Championship game later on in the season?
No, it wouldn't surprise me. I want to go back. You talked about Seattle and Green Bay, right? Comparing them to the Rams as the best teams in the NFC. You know what separates the Rams from Seattle and Green Bay? The fact that they draft well. I mean, they have a smart GM, right? And the Bucs have a great GM as well that has been making great moves. That's what separates the Rams, though. They make the right personnel decisions.
And defensively for the Bucs, again, like I mentioned, the second half I thought they played extremely well to be able to give Brady and the offense a chance. But JC, we mentioned this when we were doing our prep before the show. The speed of this Rams offense, the tempo in which they were working, they were getting the ball to Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods very quickly. It's one of those things where it felt as if that was giving Todd Bowles fits. Jared Goff had a ton of time to throw the ball. They weren't getting a ton of pressure. It felt like the way McVay runs this Rams offense really got to the Bucs last night.
The only guy that had a successful night, who was my defensive player of the game, was JPP. I mean, and he was getting through and making pressures with his power. You see a guy like Shaq Barrett, the analytics people will tell you how much pressure he's causing, but he's not making plays for this team right now. And I've said this before, at least twice. This might be the third time now I'm saying kudos to Bruce Arians and Jason Light for getting him on that tag. Because if I'm the Bucs, and I know we're going to talk about my mock draft in a little bit. If I'm the Bucs, I'm looking for more pass rushers in this draft, because I think it's needed.
It's needed, and it's probably the thing that defensively you look at, I think, the most as what is slowing them down right now is their ability to not get after the quarterback. Look, JC, you use the term mediocre, so that's the term I'll use here when discussing Jared Goff. If we are to if we go with he's a mediocre quarterback, even if you give a mediocre quarterback that kind of time, Jared Goff's talented enough; he can make throws. He'll find open receivers. He'll find Robert Woods. He'll find Cooper Kupp. He'll find Gerald Everett. He'll dump the ball off. When you give quarterbacks in the National Football League, any quarterback that's a starter, you give him time, they will make good throws. So the way you rattle those quarterbacks, the way you get the matchup to flip in your favor is you make them uncomfortable. Put Jared Goff in positions where he doesn't want to be in. Jared Goff doesn't want to be scrambling around trying to extend plays, throw on the run. He doesn't want to be doing that. That takes him out of his element. It takes him out of his game plan. The Bucs weren't able to do that last night. And for Jared Goff, it was a relatively easy 39-51. I know he threw 2 picks and they were bad throws, but it was a relatively just easy night for him back there.
And that goes to Sean McVay as well because, Bowles tried to dial up the blitzes with Devin White and stuff like that. Nothing was working. They had a check for everything. They had audible for. They knew everything was coming. They game planned the hell out of that game.
Yeah, and again, I have the numbers in front of me. On the ground, the Rams had 37 yards on offense. So the Bucs completely took that away and said Jared Goff beat us, but the Bucs forgot to make Jared Goff's life a nightmare. They weren't able to do it, and that's what you saw. You mentioned JPP, your defensive player of the game. Are you giving out an offensive player of the game award? Are you giving
I'm
one
going
out
to give it to
this week?
Antonio Brown. I think Antonio Brown looked great. He looked like his old self. He was creating space, making catches, not dropping the ball. He looked good. So as a Bucs fan, that's what you want to be happy with. Happy the fact that you're not hearing about anything off the field that's in the present time and that he's just playing well and keeping his head down.
Led the team, 8 receptions for 57 yards. Godwin and Evans both added a touchdown. Were you surprised in the way that, and the Donovan Smith injury certainly impacted the start of the game, but were you surprised? I felt watching the game at times where, and maybe I didn't have the sound on and that could have played a role in it, but it just didn't feel like I saw Brady. And again, I have the stats in front of me. 5 catches for 49 yards for Evans, 7 catches, 53 yards for Godwin. It just didn't feel like there was urgency to get those guys the ball, to get the ball to the guys who, when we're in the trenches, when we got to band together and get this done, just didn't feel like it was going that direction.
It had that same vibe that the Giants game had.
Yeah, very much so.
It was like spooky, weird. It was just like this. And I think that really goes to how quiet it is at these stadiums. But let's forget the Monday night atmosphere. Let's talk about how I think it's pretty clear that teams that have these good screen games are crushing the Bucs. The Saints did it. The Rams did it. Who else? Someone else did it this year too.
Well, their next opponent's going to do it.
Right.
Their next opponent's the Kansas City
Chiefs.
Chiefs.
In one of the best screen minds in the game, and Andy Reid. It could get ugly, guys. The reality is it could get really ugly.
You have a coach on the other side in this game up against the Chiefs and a quarterback, by the way, that are extremely creative, are able to make do with broken plays. They're going to run a lot of screen plays. They have players who can get out in space and make plays. Tyreek Hill, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they will get the ball out in space. And exactly what Sean McVay – listen, Andy Reid was paying attention last night to that football game. He saw what McVay was able to do to create successful, and he has a better quarterback, and I think he has better skill players on his team to be able to get that done. That should concern you. It really feels like if you throw tempo at this Bucs defense, you are going to cause them fits because they can't get home. They can't get after the quarterback.
Chris, I think this is a good time for us, instead of getting into how scared we are about the Chiefs game.
That we could save that for Friday's show?
Let's save that for Friday. Maybe we should jump into that mock draft I did on Twitter.
Okay, let me set this up for everybody. So JC the other day on Twitter went through a mock draft of what he would like the Bucs to do in this year's upcoming draft. And I thought after this game, when the big complaints were, there's some depth issues at offensive line. This team can't get after the quarterback. This team doesn't have anyone who can catch the ball out of the backfield. I thought maybe it would be a good time for JC to go through this mock draft for everybody. So JC, I will hand it over to you. You have your mock draft in front of you. Go ahead.
So just to let the listeners know, this was last week's order. So obviously it might be switched, but we're still going to go for it. Round 1, pick 25 for the Buccaneers. I selected Liam Eichenberg, offensive tackle, Notre Dame, 6'6", 305 pounds, who would replace Donovan Smith at left tackle. Donovan Smith has been very up and down, never has been consistent, and I just think he needs to be replaced with just a strong replacement. This guy would be a plug and play left tackle. Anything you want to comment on
Well,
that, or should I keep going here?
no, I do want to make one mention here, and I think it's a great place to start with this team is offensive line, because even take last night's game out of it. This has been a conversation all year that we've had, is that they made a great pick in Tristan Wirfs. That looks like a home run for them, what they got in Tristan Wirfs. They still have extra holes to fill around that, and if they want to be successful listen, we all love the TB12 and we all love the mentality, but Tom Brady, if he's going to get hit every week like he's been getting hit and getting pressured, this isn't going to work. You have to start there. You have to protect Tom Brady. So I love going there first.
Round 2 pick 57 for the Bucs. I selected Quincy Roche, edge from the U, 6'4", 235. Similar kind of build to a Shaq Barrett. He explodes off the line of scrimmage, has ability to win inside and outside. He just needs more discipline and focus in his life. Plays much bigger than his listed playing weight. So he's one of those guys that's strong, man. He's a strong kid. That 235, and this NFL right now is evolving towards these speedy guys, but that have strength. So that would be kind of like a Shaq Barrett replacement if we wanted to go that way with the cap.
And doesn't that directly go back to the point that we just made of that this Tampa Bay team struggles with their ability to keep up tempo-wise? You bring in a guy who has that. He's going in the way that the NFL is going with these more speedier, athletic guys that can get after the quarterback. It fits exactly the way the NFL is going. It's exactly the trend that Tampa needs to kind of steer into on that part of the ball. 2 for 2 so far, JC. I'm on board with this.
So we get to round 3, pick 88 for the Bucs. I select Jalen Phillips, edge, the University of Miami, also former UCLA, who, that's my college team. He's 6'5", 258. This guy is God-gifted talent, okay? This guy is amazing when it comes to the physique, size. He is literally the guy you want as an edge rusher. The problem with him at UCLA and at Miami, he loves music. He loves music. He doesn't know what he wants to do with his career. If this guy plugs himself into football full time, the potential is endless, and he's having a great season for the U. I mean, I have down here for my analysis, he's a natural, God-gifted physical ability, was one of the top recruits in the nation coming out of high school. He could be the best pure pass rusher in this draft, but does he love the game? Does he love the game? And that's the question for him. Because if he loves the game, he's a first-round pick. If he doesn't love the game, then you have these red flags that come in, and some lucky team gets to draft him and try to motivate him. But this guy, if the Bucs had a chance at this guy in the first round, because after interviews and stuff, I would pull it. I would get this guy in the first round. He's that good.
You have doubled down here in the middle rounds with the pass rush. Clearly feels like it's a priority for you. Okay, so if I'm keeping track here, you've got offensive linemen and you've gotten pass rush. Where are you going now? Because there are other needs that we've discussed on this show.
My next pick is he's a safety, and I'm going to need everyone's patience for me to pronounce this name.
Oh, boy.
I'm going to go for it, though. It's round 4, pick 126. He's a Florida State kid, Hamza Naziruddin.
I don't even know if you pronounced it right, but I'm going to give you an A+ for the effort. So go ahead and break this pick down for me.
I know French. I know some Spanish. So he's a safety at Florida State, 6'4", 215. The kid's good. He's a natural, and he's physically gifted. Buccaneers are good at safety right now, but you could always look for upgrades. He tore his ACL in 2019. Would be a great blitzer in Todd Bowles' scheme. That was my analysis on him. He's one of those all-natural guys. You plug him in. They get reps. They make plays. He's a game changer.
Okay, so that's 4 rounds. You haven't thrown a running back out there. I don't know if a running back will make your final mock draft. Okay, that's what I figured is we're 4 rounds.
The problem is the running back that I picked is now no longer a day 3 guy. He might be a day 1, day 2 guy now. But we'll get there.
So you got him in round 5 or round 6, and now you think he's going to be moving up the board.
I got him in round 7.
You got him in round
TDN
7
mock draft machine, but he had a performance over the weekend.
Okay, go ahead, continue. Pick 5.
Pick 5, pick 165. I have Corey Durden, inside defensive line. 6'5", 315 guy. Needs to really focus on his body and hitting the weight room. Needs focus and dedication to the craft. Would be a good guy to develop behind Sue and Villa. I mean, we need Vita Vea back really bad.
Doesn't
We
doesn't
need a
every
young
week
guy. We need
reinforce
depth
that?
that's young. We have a guy from Nebraska right now. Paige probably knows more about him than I do, but Khalil Davis. But, also depth is great, right? And then we get to, unless you have some analysis, we get to
Well,
my
I want to just add that every week reinforces how bad that Vita Vea injury is for this defense, right? I think you feel the impact watching this team, and I think this pick screams, let's get some depth for this position. Let's get the ability. So if we do have a situation where a guy has an injury and he's going to miss a week or two, or in Vita Vea's case, a longer injury, we have talent that we believe in this room that can help get it done. Never against depth picks, JC. Never against them.
Just a quick recap, if you guys aren't paying attention out there. Our first round pick was from Notre Dame. Our second round pick was from the U. Our third round pick was from the U. Our fourth round pick was from Florida State. Our fifth round pick was from Florida State. Now round 6, right? This is I took a quarterback here, and we don't need a quarterback because we have Josh Rosen. In my mind, I'm happy with Josh Rosen. I just haven't got the report card on how he's doing. You know what I mean? I love the kid. I love to hear from him. Love to have him on the podcast so we can make that possible. But my round 6 pick 212 here is Dorian Thompson-Robinson, quarterback, UCLA, 6'1", 200 pounds. Analysis: dual threat quarterback, can throw and run with equal ability, confident gunslinger, better thrower than Lamar Jackson by light years. DTR has a bright future. I will say, when I said better thrower than Lamar Jackson, I was speaking the truth, but I'm also somewhat pissed off at Lamar because he ruined my fantasy leagues.
So first of all, I want to make it clear, this is the definition of a homer pick. Like this is
no one does like this guy Michael Kist on Twitter. He has a podcast with Ben Solak, who works at TDN. He says, when you homer, no one homers like you, and it's true, baby.
No, you have homered a position that you don't need from a school that you're a fan of.
Listen, what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get this guy some spotlight. I want this kid to get drafted. I believe in the kid.
And you take a shot at Lamar Jackson along the way. Okay, this pick checked every box. All right, you got one more for us?
Chaos is a ladder, Chris. Chaos is a ladder.
And you're climbing it, buddy. You got one more for us?
No, I got 2 more for you.
2 more? Go ahead.
All right, round 7, pick 246. Selection: Demetric Felton, running back, UCLA, 5'10", 185. Analysis: X factor on offense, can play running back or wide receiver, breakaway speed in the open, shifty, and just needs the right offensive mind. BA would be a perfect fit for him, and that one is not homer. That's real. Go look at his stats over the weekend, Chris. Pull them up. Pull them up. I want you. I want you to pull up the UCLA box score. Tell me how many yards he had.
You want one game? Well, you want me to be like, one game, he's great?
Yeah, I want to hear his box score from this past weekend against Oregon. I just want to hear.
All right, let me work on pulling it up. But in the meantime, I don't know how you can say that this.
In the meantime, I'll go with pick number.
But how is this not another homer pick? You picked back-to-back UCLA guys in the later rounds. This is why.
Listen, just get the numbers out.
I'm looking it up for you. Don't worry.
Round 7, pick 253, selection: Austin Watkins, wide receiver, UAB, 6'3", 205, averaged 19.2 yards per reception on 57 catches in 2019. Excellent ball skills and is a smooth route runner. He's an alpha wide receiver and wins contested situations. He would just be, a nice depth piece at wide receiver. Now let's hear the box score for my guy Demetric Felton.
34 carries, 167 yards, 2 touchdowns in a loss to Oregon.
Now let's hear about what about the receptions
that they lost to Oregon. His receptions, he had 2 catches for 6 yards. That really boosted.
How about
stats.
Return yards?
Now you're asking for way too much. Now I got to scroll down. Kick returns, he had 5 kick returns for 105 yards.
How's that?
I'm just saying you're being a homer. You went UCLA back-to-back picks. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying you particularly mocking him to your team. That's being a homer. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to admit it.
The DTR pick the Buccaneers don't need, but I'm just trying to get the kid some love because he should be drafted.
Okay, you can give him love. I'm okay with that. I just want you to just be open and admit that you're being a homer because you're mocking him to your own team from the school that you root for. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, the DTR pick was a homer pick, but the Demetric Felton pick was not. He's an Alvin Kamara type.
I'll take All right, I'm just going to ignore the Alvin Kamara comp that you just attempted to make. I will take the middle ground on you admitting that the DTR pick was a homer pick.
Yes.
Okay, so
Correct.
there's your mock draft. Really glad that we did that coming off of that game. Let's wrap up. Final thoughts on the Monday night game. We'll do a bit of a preview on Friday. We'll get everybody ready for the remainder of the season. But final thoughts on this game specifically last night, JC.
I think, and this could be said for a lot of teams, these Monday night games, these Sunday night games that don't have people in the crowd are tough. So all I got to say is pray that there's a vaccine that comes out somewhat soon so we can fill these stands and these players can play like how they're supposed to, because it's the atmosphere is dead. It's weird vibes. I don't even like watching it. I can't. It's just a weird feeling. But go Bucks. We're gonna be fine. We're still in the playoff hunt, but like Bruce said, every game is a must win now, and like we need that offense to step up, find your identity, and we need that defense to step up and get some turnovers.
My final thought, and I agree with. I see the lack of crowd hasn't bothered me yet, because in my head it's hard for me to remember when I'm watching Red Zone or I'm watching a game which stadiums are allowing fans and which stadiums are piping in crowd noise. I just can't remember until they show a crowd shot. So in the middle of a game, I'm not paying attention to those things. But I think for the players on the field, it matters 1,000%. I just for me
There's
sitting at
fans
home,
at the Bucks game, but it's just there's not enough fans.
what is it, 15,000 I think
Yeah,
is
it's
the
like,
number that they're going to.
I
So
don't.
it's just hard to find yourself into a rhythm. My final thought on this, and again, I said this at the beginning of the show, I think the Rams are the best team in the NFC. So there isn't anything, this isn't a loss to the Giants on Monday night. This isn't getting blown out to the Saints. This isn't losing to the Jets, right? That's not what this loss is. But this puts an extreme emphasis on the game coming up in 5 days on Sunday, when you get the defending Super Bowl champs in town in Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the Kansas City Chiefs. There is an increased emphasis on that game and how this team is going to perform. They have to bounce back, because JC got the rest of the schedule in front of me. The Vikings, that's going to be the Vikings are going to
Tough
play
game.
tough, right? The Falcons, they're going to play you tough. That's a divisional game. They're going to play you tough. The Lions, all right, I'll give you that one. That one I'm not really super worried about. And then it's the Falcons to close the year. So you got teams that are going to play you tough the rest of the way. I don't know if you can afford to have 2 straight losses to the Rams and Bucs and go to 7-5. That's going to shake up where you sit in the playoff picture. You might be traveling on the road in the postseason now. It might change everything. So this game against Kansas City, you got to put the Rams in the rearview mirror. You have to look at that game and say, we made some mistakes on defense. On offense, we were nowhere near our best. We were inconsistent once again. We couldn't protect Tom Brady. And you have to be laser focused on the Kansas City Chiefs, because they are going to throw a lot of the same stuff you just saw from the Rams. So it's not like you don't have the film. You got the film to look at for this one.
Go Bucks.
You can follow the show on Twitter at Fully Loaded. Is it Fully Loaded Show or Fully Loaded Bucks? It's Fully Loaded Bucks. I always forget this. JC, everybody can follow you on Twitter at Cornell NFL.
Actually,
Go ahead.
let me cut you off. I'll make a little announcement. Here.
I don't
Been
know about this
something in the
announcement, so it's
works.
always a little worrisome when you're throwing me on the spot here. But go ahead.
There's been something in the works. I've been working on something hard with good people that will be bringing Tampa Bay Buccaneers website, full blown media company coming 2021 after the season. We're going to start with the off season. That's when it's going to begin. So just look out for that. Follow Fully Loaded Bucks on Twitter. Follow me, Cornell NFL on Twitter. Follow your boy right here, Shoe Radio.
Yeah,
It's going to be a fun time. 2021 is going to be a fun time. Let's get through 2020 together.
Yeah, got 2 more months left. Also, since we're not going to speak everybody until Friday, hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. If you are able to spend it safely with friends and family, that's awesome. If you're doing socially distanced Thanksgiving, just everybody be safe. Enjoy the time off. We will be back on Friday to get you ready for the game on Sunday. We'll have Doinks of the Week. We'll have Beat JC picks. We'll have everything on the Friday edition of the show. So everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you then.